Morning, everybody. Welcome to Township of North Frontenac's Public Council meeting regarding proposed amendments to official plan, site plan control policies. I'd like to begin the meeting with a recorded message. Please be advised, North Frontenac council meetings are recorded. By attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Members of council, staff, delegates, and attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behavior or comments. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as a gathering place of the first peoples and their ancestors who were entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the Township of North Frontenac is committed to working with Indigenous peoples and all residents to ensure a united path of reconciliation. Approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Good, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council approves the agenda for the public meeting regarding amendments to the township's official plan, specifically site plan control policies, dated February 6th, 2026, as circulated.
Are there any comments? Seeing none, in favor? Carried. We have an agenda. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. 5A, administrative reports, proposed official plan amendment for site plan control.
Moved by Councillor Good, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the administrative report prepared by Sonia Bolton, Manager of Community Planning, County Frontenac, entitled Proposed Official Plan Amendment for Site Plan Control, and that council proposes the following amendments to the proposed policies regarding site plan control, and that council receives for consideration all public comments regarding the proposed amendment, and that council instructs planning staff to make any necessary revisions to the draft official plan amendment and bring it back to council at a future meeting for a decision.
Okay, so just to remind council, this is for the public, so we can do our comments at a later date if we have to. So we open the floor up to comments from the public. And I'm going to start with the council chamber, and then we're going to move to. Okay, then we're going to move to the online venue. But first, we have a presentation from our planner, Sonia Bolton. Sonia, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning to you and the other members of council, staff, and the public. Thank you for allowing me to join you virtually today. I am here to talk about a change of policy, specifically to site plan control policies in your official plan. This actually was something that started last year. Township staff approached me and asked about updating your site plan control bylaw. And when I started to look into it, I realized that in addition to updating the bylaw, there was also a need to update the official plan policies themselves before we do the bylaw. So this is sort of the first in a two-step process. We're going to look at amending the official plan policies and then updating the actual bylaw itself. So next slide, please. So what I'm going to walk through today is a little bit, it's not a common tool. Site plan control is not a common tool necessarily in a rural environment. I think you're more used to seeing things like zoning changes, minor variances, consents. So I'm just going to talk a little bit briefly about what site plan control is, how it works in the planning process, what the Planning Act requires for site plan control, and then what the actual policies changes are for North Frontenac, and then our next steps in the process. So next slide, please. So site plan control is a tool under the Planning Act that is used by municipalities to ensure a number of things. One, to make sure that the development of land is designed appropriately, that it is safe and functional for the people who are going to be using the site, that any development on the property minimizes potential impacts on neighboring or adjacent properties, and overall that the development standards set by the municipality are respected. Next slide, please. So just in terms of the overall planning process, in terms of the hierarchy, it is one of the more closer to implementation type tools. So you have your broader official plan, You have your zoning bylaw that sets out the legal rights in terms of permitted uses, setbacks, maximum heights, those kinds of things. And then you get into the technical details of plans that have to be done before you go to the building permit stage. And that includes site plan control. Next slide, please. So under the Planning Act, there are a number of things. Oh, my apologies. It's missing a line at the bottom, but I'll go through all of them. In terms of what site plan control can address, it looks at the design of the site, including accessibility and sustainability. It looks at the massing and the conceptual design of buildings, the relationship of proposed buildings to adjacent buildings and areas that are accessible to the public. All things related to access on the site, so driveways, parking, pedestrian access, emergency vehicle routes. It also includes a review of lot grading and drainage, all the servicing components, and things such as landscaping, lighting, on-site waste facilities. And then the last point that seems to be off the bottom of the slide is this is one of the tools in the Planning Act that allows council to take a municipal road widening if it's on a public road and the right-of-way does not meet the standards. You can take a road widening from a property as part of the site plan control process. Now, what it doesn't control is it doesn't control interior design, and we're no longer able to regulate or control the architectural design or the aesthetics of how it looks, other than those components that are tied to health, safety, accessibility, and protecting adjacent lands. So things like the overall mass and shadowing we can control, but not the architectural components in terms of color and materials and those kinds of things. And we're also not able to control the manner of construction or construction standards. Next slide, please. So in terms of how site plan control is applied, one of the things that has to happen is that your official plan has to designate either all of your municipality or parts of it as a site plan control area where you're allowed to use site plan control. Generally, most municipalities just designate the entire municipality. Usually it applies to non-residential uses, commercial, industrial, institutional, but it does apply to multi-residential uses. Now, the province has made a number of changes to the Planning Act that affects site plan control over the last few years, hence the need to update not only your site plan control bylaw, but first your official plan policies. And one of the changes they made was to not allow site plan control for multi-residential uses unless they had more than 10 residential dwellings or units. Now, after they passed this, a little while later, they did an amendment to that and provided 2 exceptions, so that you can do it for 10 or fewer residential units if it's within 120 meters of a water body, wetland, or 300 meters of an active railway corridor. And you have to outline the specific uses in your site plan control bylaw, but you don't need to include them in your official plan. Next slide, please. So in terms of the approval process, one of the changes that I just mentioned to the Planning Act, specifically through Bill 109 in 2022, required the council of a municipality to delegate the authority of the approval of any site plan control application to municipal staff. And North Frontenac did this through bylaw 2024-10 and has delegated the authority for those application decisions to the clerk/planning manager. And that's not intended to change as part of the proposed amendment. I know I've had discussions with members of council about this issue in the not too distant past, and it was talked about widely when it was first proposed. And in speaking with staff at the province, when the question was asked is, well, what if the municipality doesn't want to designate it to staff? And the answer was, well, then they don't get to do site plan control. So unfortunately, it forced our hands. It's not optional, but it is an important tool, and not having it would be worse than the current situation that we have. So that is something that we did look into. And unfortunately, that is the process that we have been given at this time for these types of applications. Next slide, please. So in terms of this specific official plan amendment. Our intent is just to delete and replace the policies that are currently found in section 6, 9, 10 of the official plan. And the report that was attached to your agenda related to this has a draft bylaw attached with the full list of policies there. They're a mix of what's already in your existing policies as well as what's required in the Planning Act. And the two key changes that I would highlight, one is that we're including wording that designates the entire township as a site plan control area. So that is currently absent from your current policies. So we need to add that in because it is a requirement of the Planning Act. The other thing that we're doing is we're actually removing the list of land uses and types of developments that are subject to site plan control from the official plan. So it's not a requirement of the official plan to list those in your, it's not a requirement of the Planning Act to list those in your official plan, but instead you put them in your site plan control bylaw. And that's, I think, a better process because currently, if you amend the list of uses in your bylaw, you also have to amend your official plan. And right now with our two-tiered system, official plan amendments have to go to county council, whereas your site plan control bylaw does not. So since the Planning Act doesn't require you to put that list of uses in your official plan policies, we're taking them out and then we're going to just address them in your bylaw, which will be the next step that you'll see in the next month or so. Next slide, please. So yes, in terms of next steps, we're here today to receive comments and questions from members of council and members of the public. And then we will be working with township staff to prepare a final version of the official plan amendment bylaw to present back to you at future council meeting. And then any bylaw that you adopt regarding this will be presented to county council for final approval. And then while that is happening, we'll also be working on a draft of your new site plan control bylaw, which we will present to you at a future meeting. And at that point, I'll probably give another presentation and get a little bit more into the details of site plan control. But next slide. And for now, that's the end of the formal presentation. I'm more than happy to take any questions, though.
Okay, so we're at the point where you can ask questions, you can make comments, and so on. Yeah. All right. I have the good blessing for this. So anyone in the council chamber wish to ask a question or make a comment? Okay, seeing none, is anyone online wish to make a comment, ask questions, and so on?
So if there is anyone online that wishes to make comment, please use the raise hand feature. Okay, so we do have Kelly Willis. Just one moment.
Go ahead, Ms. Willis.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm just wondering where the updated official plan is. When I look at the attached document, it's dated for 2017. And I know that there have been changes. For instance, in one of the points today, you're deleting a section, but I noticed that that section is not listed in the document that's been provided. So if I could get an update on that, that would be great. Thank you.
You can pull that off our website. And if you can't get it, you can talk to our planners, either Brooke Drexler or Tara Miskey, and they'll help you out.
Okay, so that will be updated then on the website?
Well, it is already, but this will update it even more. Do you have any comments on the proposed changes, I guess is what we're asking.
No, that's fine. It was just that I was looking for the present state of the official plan and couldn't find any.
Well, may I suggest again, you call Brooke Drexler or you call Tara Miskey and they will gladly help you through it. Make sure you have access to the most current plan.
That would be excellent. Thank you, Mayor.
Is anyone else?
Is there anybody else that wishes to make comment? Please, again, use the raise hand feature. Seeing none.
Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting. Okay, councilors, did anybody have a comment? Councilor Inglis.
Thank you. Tanya, I think I mentioned this before. Site plan control involves a certain amount of judgment and discretion. And my concern in the past was taking this away from an elected body, a council, and landing it on one staff member. Has there been any discussion from your colleagues about problems that might arise from putting this? I mean, site plan control is a fairly major instrument. It's very powerful. It can be very blunt. The issue of putting this on one staff person and taking it away from an elected body, that's my concern.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I hear what you're saying. I think in practice of how it works, yes, there's one staff person that is the final approval authority, but there is a whole review process. So like any planning application, when it comes in, it's sent out to a number of different departments and technical agencies that have expertise in different areas, whether it's servicing, whether it's traffic, and essentially, for the township staff, they would also be circulating it to us in terms of, as your planners, to look at it. And everything that would be done is done in conformity with the policies and the bylaws that you set. So if something is being approved through site plan control, it has to meet all the provisions of your zoning bylaw, unless they've gotten an amendment or a minor variance to recognize that. It has to be done in accordance with the site plan control bylaws. So yes, ultimately it's one person who has to sit down and review everything, but they are able to draw on different expertise for the various components, and they're doing it within the parameters of the bylaws set by council.
Anyone else, council? Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, Sonia. Any final comments? In favor of the resolution? Carried. That brings us to adjournment.
Right, excuse me. Moved by Councillor Good, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council adjourns the public meeting at 9:18 a.m.
Comments? Seeing none, in favor? Opposed? Carried. Meeting is terminated. Thank you. We'll now move into our regular council meeting. Agenda is as amended of February the 2nd, 2026. This is the call to order. The approval of the agenda, please.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council approves the agenda dated February 6th, 2026 as amended.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, we're now going to clear the council chambers if we're going to move into a closed meeting. We need the resolution first.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council retires to closed session at 9:18 a.m. to A, adopt minutes of a closed meeting held January 16th, 2026, and discuss litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, specifically an Ontario Land Tribunal file.
Comments? In favor? Carried. We'll take a 2-minute break. Welcome back, everyone. We have risen from our closed session and in which we adopted the minutes of closed meeting held January the 16th, 2026. And we discussed litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, specifically an Ontario Land Tribunal file. Okay. So the next item of business is the business profile. We have Nate's Tires, item 6A.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, or by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council receives for information business profile of Nate's Tires, provided by the Economic Development Task Force.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Next item is, we're into presentations. First one is Eric Kohlsmith, Mississippi Rideau Septic System Office, septic inspection results.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be resolved, the council receives for information the presentation from Eric Kohlsmith, Mississippi Rideau Septic System Office, regarding the 2026 re-inspection results, and thanks him for his time spent today.
Welcome, Eric.
Great, thank you very much. So again, I'm back again for the 2025 re-inspection results for the voluntary program. Fire control. Sorry, am I controlling the slides? Okay, thank you. So in 2025, we did 53 re-inspections, which was extraordinary response given the past couple of years. We've been, I saw back in 21, I think we did 8, and we've been in the 20s for the last couple of years. So we had fantastic response to the voluntary program. Part of it, I think it's contributed to lake associations promoting the program and property owners willing to participate. Also, looking at some other lakes that we haven't done for a couple of years, I think provided for more results. So out of the program, we had 66% of the property owners were present for the reinspection, which is up from 58% in 2024. 25 systems were identified and had no concerns. So at the time of the inspection, systems were operating and working in as per the building code and predecessor legislation. We had 24 systems requiring remedial work, which are systems that need some kind of maintenance or operation, but not necessarily a permit required for the work to be done. And 4 properties identifying as system repair replacement. Those 4 properties, the systems are concerned were gray water systems. I believe all 4 were discharging to the surface of the ground. So those were identified and provided. Next. So this slide provides a breakdown of the classes of sewage systems that were inspected. So under the Ontario Building Code, we have 5 different classes of sewage systems. So a class 1 system would be either an outhouse, privy, composting toilet, incinerating toilet. So they only accept human waste, no gray water, sink showers, or others. Class 2, we had 7 systems, so those are gray water systems. So they're accepting everything but human waste, so sink showers, laundry. Class 3 systems are cesspools. Under the building code, they're currently only able to discharge from a class 1. So we commonly see a class 3 system with a composting toilet as they have an overflow that needs to be directed for treatment through a class 3 system. Class 4 is our conventional septic tank leaching beds, which is the primary system we see on most properties, being 47. And this year, there was no holding tanks included in the reinspection, just wasn't on the properties to be inspected. So this slide is providing setback distances for class 4 systems, so the septic tank and the distribution pipe. So we can see the majority of systems, I apologize, it's not showing for greater than 30, but the majority of the systems are greater than 30 meters back. The building code requirement minimum setback from the 1980s has been 15 meters, where the township requires 30 meter for development. So it just helps to illustrate that most systems comply to the building code or exceed the building code minimum requirement. So during the tank inspection portion, we inspect all components of the sewage system. For the tank, we open up the septic tanks, check their condition and their operation. Through that, we measure the amount of accumulation in the septic tank, being the scum and sludge. So the building code does have a requirement for pump out when 1/3 of the tank is occupied by scum and sludge. And through that, we found 9 systems that were at or above the requirement for pump out. So those were recommended to be done. Corrosion in the septic tank. Most of the corrosion we see is in concrete tanks, newer concrete tanks. And when I say newer, I mean like 80s, late 80s, early 90s and newer. The older tanks seem to be still in good condition from early 80s and previous. So the gases are reacting with concrete causing the corrode. So it just becomes a maintenance item to ensure that the tank is safe and structural but also that components like the baffles are in place. And then effluent filters, this is an increased number that we saw, which is a good sign. 15 or 32% of the class 4 systems had an effluent filter. So filters provide additional treatment for the sewage system, but also helps prevent solids from exiting the tank and clogging up the leaching field. So the photo on the left there with that white device, the bottom portion that's black, that's all scum and a biofilm that's built up on the effluent filter. So normally all that material would be going out to a leaching bed. So there is a great benefit. And effluent filters were first brought in, required in systems in 2007. So we've seen people adopting, putting in, retrofitting their existing systems, but also indicates, potentially a number of newer systems since 2007, where it was required. So I did touch on the system status on the first slide. So we do break down the status of the systems or their operation and maintenance based off of these 4 criteria. So again, no concerns or systems at the time of the inspection. They didn't have any operation or maintenance issues. Identified remedial work, maintenance and operation issues, but generally don't require a permit. So pump outs, replacing the baffles, removal of vegetation over the leaching bed or in the tank area, those type of items. More information required. This is where there's one or more questions arose. We didn't quite know maybe what the water source was, the property, the lake, or if there was a well, or in the off chance we have a septic tank and then under the cottage, there's random pipe going into the ground. We do ask for clarification on what that is, just to verify if it's electrical conduit or if it is, or it's wastewater. And then system replacement or repair. These systems are identified at the time of the inspection that they're either not maintained or operating in accordance with the building code or predecessor legislation, and that they could pose a risk to human health and the environment. So those ones are identified and then provided to the township for review and potential enforcement. So I just included a couple of photos of gray water systems, or what we generally find when a gray water system has failed. There is this sense that gray water isn't dangerous and it can just be discharged to the ground. The concern with the gray water is that it can increase bacterial growth where it's being discharged with any organics that are in there. So it is sanitary sewage under the building code and then needs to be treated accordingly. And then, so this provides a breakdown of the systems that were the system status of all properties or systems inspected. So the red indicates the systems requiring repair replacement. So that accounted for 8% of the inspections completed. While the other ones, again, primary, no concerns, so nothing identified. And then the remedial work again at 44%, which is work to maintain the system so ensure that it continues to work correctly. And then we just provided a general overview of the most common system deficiencies. In this case, it's generally the remedial work items that we had to look at. So some properties will have more than one issue on them. But pump outs, baffle maintenance, so that's baffles within your septic tank, removal of roots, roots getting into the septic tank and clog the pipes coming in or out, which is going to affect the operation and potentially cause a backup. And then roots not dealt with in the tank could result in a bed malfunction as well. Vegetation issues. We've been promoting over the last several years, not just the removal of vegetation, but also looking at leaves and debris over top of the leaching bed. The issue with leaves, they seem innocuous, but over time, as they get thicker, they'll hold moisture in on the bed. They won't allow as much oxygen for the proper treatment. So it could impact the overall operation of that system. So we have been encouraging that more. Effluent level, this is where we've opened up the septic tank and it's elevated based off of the overall operation, which should be at the bottom of the outlet pipe. So at times we'll see an elevated level, and that's just for further investigation unless it's obvious that the system's failed. Elevated levels in the tank could be just caused by settling components downstream of the septic tank, where the water has to get up higher to get over and out. But it also can indicate that a leaching bed is starting to fail. And it's something to keep an eye on and monitor over time. And then again, corrosion, where the gases are reacting with in most cases, concrete within the septic tank. So quick and short, but that's the results for 2025 reinspection.
Thank you. It's really interesting. Any councilors have any comments? Councilor Inglis?
Eric, why are tanks built before 1980 in better shape?
I believe it's the mix that they were using that didn't react with sulfur mulch or the hydrogen salt that is in the tank. The older tanks, you can actually see the aggregate in the surface of the tank, where newer tanks are more homogeneous. So I think it's the change in the mix. But then that said, we can see two tanks installed in, say, 2010. One tank has no corrosion and the other one does. So it's not just a function of the material of the tank, but also the operation and the use. So generally what causes corrosion is gases build up. So if those gases are increasing from their usage, then the potential for more corrosion.
Any other comments? So, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So we have the resolution is on the floor. We didn't read that, but did we? Did we? Okay. In favor of the resolution? Resolution passed. Public Works Managers, Administrative Report 2025 Septic Inspection Program, proposed program for 2026.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the Public Works Manager's Administrative Report entitled 2025 Septic Reinspection Program and Proposed Program for 2026. And the council approves the continuation of a voluntary septic reinspection program in partnership with the Mississippi Rideau Septic System Office for the 2026 season. And that council approves the Public Works Manager signing the 2026 agreement with MRSSO for septic reinspection services on behalf of the township. And that council instructs the Public Works Manager to place a copy of the 2025 sewage system reinspection program on the township's website. And that staff shall assist MRSSO with arranging presentations for lake associations participating in the 2026 program.
Comments? I'd like to thank the lake associations, especially. We've been working with them to try and increase the number of inspections, and some of them have been very proactive. Also, we overspent the budget, which is first for this. So, Corey, for next budget, we should put an extra $1,000 or $2,000 in there for that. Okay. In favor of the resolution? Carried. That takes us to item 8, delegations. Thank you, Eric. The Ontario Federation of Trail Riders and ByTown Motorcycle Association 2026 agreement with North Frontenac.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information presentation from Lisa Thompson, Executive Director with the Ontario Federation of Trail Riders, regarding the proposed 2026 agreement with the township, and thanks her for her time spent today.
Morning, Lisa.
Good morning. Thank you all for letting us be here today. Perfect. So again, I just want to thank you for letting us have the opportunity to speak. I'm Lisa Thompson. I'm representing the Ontario Federation of Trail Riders and our club, the ByTown Motorcycle Association. We're here to give you a brief update on our trail use within the township and request a change regarding our annual fee. Right now, we've experienced a decline in our membership, and it's across the board throughout our throughout the province. So province-wide, we are down about 1,150 members, and in just in our ByTown area, which is the Greater Ottawa area, et cetera, they're also down a significant amount of membership. We don't exactly know why membership's down, but we have some suspicions it has to do with economic drivers and limited free time, as well as the height of the sport. When COVID hit, I started to go slowly decrease over the last few years, simply because they've returned to other sports or other activities or other things. So as a result, we have fewer riders accessing our trails, especially including areas like North Frontenac. This trend has led to lower trail use. Additionally, our 2-day ride that we host in the Calabogie area, the Calabogie Boogie, we've actually changed the route. So logistically, we no longer have our riders going through the one particular access point. With that in mind, our current trail use with North Frontenac consists of approximately about 3 kilometers of trail. It's primarily used as a connector rather as a destination for riding, which is something we'd actually like to look at in the future of changing that and expanding our trails. But right now we're just looking at on this trail access. So right now our trail use is actually modest. We have a limited scope and we're just using a small, as I said, section of trail. We do know that this area is relatively undeveloped from a trails perspective. And in the future, we really would like to come back to council with delegation again and talk about how we can expand the trails in the future. But right now, we're here. We wanted to continue to work the opportunity to work collaboratively with the township and in ways that align with your goals, as well as community considerations. We do know that the motorized community brings a lot of economic development to the community as well, with the purchase of gas, staying at hotels, eating food, camping, etc. In light of our current membership levels and adjusted trail uses, we're asking council to reduce our annual fee to $3,000. This request reflects our goal of aligning the costs, the current use, as well as our trail users. So just to put this into perspective, last year we were over budget for trail funding because we're a provincial organization. We share our funds throughout the entire province. And we usually, our organization, we match with our clubs, but we were significantly over budget because of the ice storms that hit areas like Kawartha and Simcoe County. So with limited membership and with membership dollars is how we pay for things, we're very, very over budget. So reducing our costs here would also help us because less members means less dollars for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments, Council? Councilor Fowler.
Just a couple questions. How many of your users actually use our Crown Land trail?
For just the limit, like the 3 kilometers of trails, or like all of the 3, because we have a mapped trail network. So we have out of our members, we don't actually have an actual number of how many actually use that point. Province-wide, we're down significantly. So including children, we finished last year with 5,400 members. And of that, of course, they're all through the entire province. For specifically in North Frontenac, we're not exactly sure. We know that the club itself, BMA, who's the biggest user of the trails, they were down to less than 1,000 members last year. And we know that not 1,000 are using that as well, because some of them are in the Limerick and Larose and southern area. So I don't have an exact number for you.
I'm sort of looking at how much you actually use the trail system and compare it to other people, what they're paying, other organizations are paying. So it's quite a bit different. I'm just wondering whether it would be better if your riders individually buy a pass.
So we did have that in the past, and it became a sort of logistical nightmare for them because some of them weren't either purchasing it when they were supposed to, or they were getting fined because they didn't have it, which is why we entered into the agreement to begin with. So we just said that we would have it because we had a significant amount of people that were riding our 2-day event, which is why we had it at the higher cost, because we had so many riders. At that point, we had about 200 riders using it. So, but now we know that we don't have that event hosting there anymore because we've moved it logistically. So now those 200 aren't using it.
Thank you.
Do you have a
about 3 kilometers in North Frontenac, it's used at an event, Boogie Boogie. But your organization represents basically dirt bike riders. You're not talking about highway motorcycles.
We do have dual sport bikes as well. So we're mostly off-road green plated, but we do have blue plates like the regular motorcycles, not like your Harleys or anything like that, but we have motorcycles that are dirt bikes that are actually licensed to be on the road. But that's a small portion of our.
So does the current agreement you have with North Frontenac that allows you to use trails other than that 3 kilometers, I think, is that the case?
We don't have, well, right now, our agreement with North Frontenac, we have this, the agreement for the access point. We don't use anything else really as of yet. There's a potential to use a lot more that we know of. It's just, we're not there with like mapping or anything like that. So people aren't aware of it. So we have a map system called Rideau TR. It's exclusive only to our members. It's not open to the public. And of that, right now, we only have the 3 kilometers on.
But these are basically trails that are used commonly with motorcycles and ATVs?
Correct.
Yeah, so the ATV network is quite extensive through the township. And you're saying that your membership is not aware of, it probably does not use most of those ATV trails?
So our community mostly uses something called single track. Single track is tracks that are used also by mountain bikers or equestrians. So it's no wider than the handlebars of your bike. It's a slower, more technical ride. There are people that use the ATV trails, especially when it's families riding together, because it becomes a family event and a weekend. But, you know, from again, what most of our members do enjoy is that single track, which is usually a one-way as well.
Counselor Good.
Yeah, this question might be more for Brooke. This lowering it to $3,000, is that still gonna cover the maintenance on these trails that they're riding on?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it definitely contributes to road maintenance. With the amount of usage that their group actually has, it is reasonable for their requests comparative to some of our ATV group contributions, which use our roads a lot more. With the agreement, they do have access to 33 kilometers of road, but as she mentioned, they only use the smaller 3 kilometers. So I do feel and recommended that 3,000 is the time for the BMN.
Counselor Fowler, you had your hand up.
Just a question more for Brooke. They have access to all of the parkland trails they want, right? So if they may be in a smaller area, they may be using a smaller area, but one of their riders could go off on the rest of the road and still be legal, right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. So they may primarily use the 3 kilometers, but if they choose to want to go down and drive into Ampa or something, they have the ability to do that with their agreement.
It's with 1-year contract, right, Brooke?
That's correct.
What did they pay last year? What did we charge them last year?
They've been at 6,500 for 3 years. So that it will be changing from 6,500 to 3,000.
Okay, folks, any final questions? In favor of the resolution? Yes. Carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the ByTown Motorcycle Association 2026. Did I miss something? Yeah, here, 2026 agreement renewal. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the Manager of Community Development's administrative report entitled ByTown Motorcycle Association 2026 Agreement, and that council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to sign the 2026 agreement with the BMA to honor the OFTR trail permits on the Crown roads within the North Frontenac Parklands.
Comments?
Yeah, I think the amount that they're quoting is not enough.
The $6,500 is what they paid in previous years, right? Why do you say it's not enough?
Other people that are using the trail, other organizations, and they're paying a lot more for covering the same property, same distance.
Councilors, any other comments? In favor of the resolution as presented, $6,500 is what they'd be looking at.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, you're still on ByTown Motorcycle Association.
Yes.
So it's $3,000 is what's recommended in the
Okay,
report.
so what did I pull up then? My apologies here.
There's just two resolutions. So Lisa's presentation and then my report, which actually confirms the $3,000.
Okay, no, that's done. We approve that. I thought we did that. Sorry, folks. Okay, hang on here.
Be resolved, the council receives for information, Manager of Community Development's administrative report entitled ByTown Motorcycle Association 2026 Agreement, and that council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to sign the 2026 agreement with the BMA to honor the OFTR trail permits on the Crown Roads within the North Frontenac Parkland.
So that's the $3,000.
Point of order. I'd like to see the amount in the resolution.
That.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the Manager of Community Development's administrative report entitled ByTown Motorcycle Association 2026 Agreement, and that council agrees to reduce the annual fee from $6,500 to $3,000. And the council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to sign the 2026 agreement with the BMA to honor the OFTR trail permits on the Crown Roads within the North Frontenac Parklands.
Councillor Fowler.
Recorded vote.
Okay.
Councillor Fowler,
Against.
Councillor Good, Councillor Hermer,
Yes.
Councillor Inglis,
Yes.
Mayor Lichty.
Yes.
The vote is carried 4-1.
Okay, so sorry for the messing that up, folks. So now we're on to the Ottawa Valley ATV Club, a 2026 agreement with North Frontenac. John, you want to come up in case we Give a presentation for us.
Thanks. Good morning, Mayor and Councillor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. For those that don't know me, I'm John Wilson. I'm the president of the Ottawa Valley ATV Club. I have been since November of 24. I've got over 30 years of off-roading experience from ATVs, trucks, truck-based buggies, back to ATVs, and now side-by-side is my method of choice. We appreciate the opportunity to continue working with the municipality, and we appreciate this opportunity. So our club is we're a member of the Ontario Federation of ATV Clubs, which is up to 24 clubs now. As we brought a couple new on last year. Our club specifically, we were incorporated in 2001, which this makes this our 25th year. The oldest continuously named club in the Federation. We're quite happy to recognize that milestone. The sport has grown significantly, as you can see from the numbers. Back in 2010, we had about 35 members, up to 120 or so in 2018. And then we ballooned up from there. A big part of that was the OVRT came online in that time. And that was really the big start of ATV tourism in Eastern Ontario. And then has been combined with COVID increase in the sport as well. So the area that our club itself looks after is about 3,500 square kilometers, predominantly Lanark County and North Frontenac, from here to Calabogie. In that, we've got currently about 400 kilometers of trails that we monitor and maintain, and then another 250 or so of connecting roads. We were fortunate enough that we're allowed to drive on the roads. And this is a rough area image of what we use. And you'll note the right-hand side of the inside the red line is particularly void. Where on the left side, all those different colors indicate the different trails that and trail types from our mapping software. One of the reasons that that I'm sitting here before you today, last year when we asked for our fee to be reduced, we agreed to committed to come back before council and show you what else we do on the trails. And this slide highlights a big part of that. We tracked this summer, the summer of 25. These are not, timesheet accurate numbers, but anywhere we estimated we were conservative on the lower side. So we estimate we have over 900 volunteer hours put into the trail system. So this is the trails other than the municipally maintained roads and the North Frontenac Parkland roads, because we don't do the maintenance on those. But of course, if we come across a tree that's down, we will absolutely move it. We're not going to drive around or over it and say, not our problem, staff can get that. We certainly would fix that if we happen to be the first ones onto it. So 420 hours regular monitoring maintenance of the other trails. Those one or two windstorms that were in late June specifically, we had over 120 hours just in those storms, cleaning them up. Particularly the Norcan Lake Road, their trail, and I've got some pictures to show you of some of what we encountered. There were two trails that were still on our map. They'd been overgrown, so we spent about 80 hours revitalizing those, and then one bridge was completely replaced and another one redecked for another 280 hours. When we factor that in at a conservative rate of about $40 an hour, that's a $36,000 investment of time alone into the trails. On top of that, last year there was another over $50,000 spent on materials, engineering fees, equipment, consumables. Some of that, like some of the engineering fees and equipment is going to sustain us for some other projects in the future. And that included grants from both Can-Am and Moto Canada, and coordination and contract with BMA on the bridge replacements, and they provide some contribution to that as well. So these are just some of the pictures to show you some of what our team encountered out there on the trail. So this was the Norcan Lake Trail. So this is the main one that connects from Mampa, or sorry, not from Mampa, from the Arco Road about halfway out, that goes up to the Mountain Chute Dam. Picture on the left, you can see sort of dead center, the gray spot in the middle at the back, in the background. That's where the trail grows. So there's a whole lot of brush on it. The picture on the right, that's actually me standing in the back of the side-by-side. Same thing, looking straight ahead at a different portion of the tree. So, you know, I've got the camera better part of 10 feet off the ground for sight line, and I couldn't even see the ground for the amount of trees that were down in that. Same thing, this is one of those ones where we highlight, we like to highlight the importance of having the club out there on some of these trails, because this one still is Norcan Lake Trail, same storm. And you can see on the right-hand side of both pictures, there's enough traffic driven by this tree without actually properly removing it and opening that road up the way that it should have been. Our club does that. We clear these out. Same thing in this picture. On the left, you can see a couple white logs sort of at the far end of the trail. Other people had cut a 6-foot piece of log out, moved it off to the side, and then driven over the rest of the stuff. Not a reasonable way to open the trail, whether it's for other off-road users, emergency services. It's appropriate that they get cleaned up properly, and that's a big part of what our club does. It's not just small stuff that we move. This is the trail that goes on the north side of Mare Lake. That's a 28-inch diameter pine tree, and that's measured about 20 feet up from the trunk. So that's the full of what I could put my arms around. And so that's one of the things that's important to us is we don't look for an alternative route around something like this to avoid having to cut through it. We'll cut through it to keep the trail on the trail where it was, and to reduce that impact of multiple paths through the bush. Moving on to some other activities that we did of the brushing. So this was the part of that 80 hours that we spent. So the year before, we spent a substantial amount of money buying a mechanical brusher to do all of the small stuff. So anything that, you know, smaller than, you know, your thumb, they're really troublesome to riders. We call them face slappers. You can imagine what that is like. But there's a lot of work involved in cutting all of those really small branches, and you know, compared to a 28-inch tree trunk or the tree that fell on the trail. So we bought this mechanical brusher to make that easier, so we can keep the trails open, keep them in better shape for all of the users, and be able to capitalize on the limited volunteers that we do, that every organization has. When there's a mechanical device there that we can make use of, we chose to make the investment, and it was significant. That was a better part of 20,000 just to buy that equipment, that cutter, and have it up and running. Other projects. So this is another one of the trails that is shared with us and the BMA crowd. This was a big endeavor for us. Coordination with MNR. You could walk across that bridge. The dirt bikes were able to still cross it because they're obviously much smaller than we are. But we chose to replace it, invest the money to replace it, that it's open for all users, or you know, if a cyclist was interested in going down there, they'd be able to safely cross it as well. And part of this is, you know, it's steel beams and it's sawn lumber that was brought in from elsewhere, but it stops cutting the local stuff right there at the site, which is it's the convenient material, but it's not the best stuff. So it is continuously cut more stuff off the bush and off the crown land, cut more stuff to try and keep band-aiding stuff together. what was built is something that's going to be able to be maintained appropriately and safe for the long term. This was another smaller one later in the season. The log beams were still okay with this one for the short term, but we put a new deck on it because the public had made another path in these photos to the left, driving through the creek because the condition of the bridge had deteriorated. You could still cross it, but public felt it was better to go drive in the creek, so we rehabilitated that one. We don't do just maintenance in the bush. We organize club rides as well. This is one that we did from here in Ompo this past summer. We had about 40 machines out. I know a bunch of us brought, specifically got gas in Ompo. I know I do every time that I'm down here. I could fill up in Calabogie because I always just drive straight from home. I could fill up in Renfrew. I choose whenever possible. I'll fill up in Ompo specifically to give some money to the community here. And that's another important piece is we understand giving back to the community. There's a larger picture involved. So we support other events. We've been supporting the Gravel Cup cycling series for several years now. We're out there as support for them. If the cyclists have issues, we can put the bike in the back of our side-by-side, put the rider in beside us and get them up to a road to their own people a lot easier than they can get a car down because they use the KNP trail often as part of that. Kings Off Road out of Calabogie, they do an annual fundraiser for one of the animal rescues. We support that event. As a colleague from the BMA mentioned earlier, the Calabogie Boogie. We've been a huge supporter of that for more than 10 years now. Same thing, we do recovery for those, for that event to help, and we pay all of our own expenses for our people for the weekend, specifically to support them in their event. And then we ran a club ride later in the season out of the Glen Tay trailhead on the Tay Havelock and raised funds for the Table Community Food Center in Perth. So giving back to those groups is important. And we also look at the economic benefit that we bring. As I mentioned, even something as simple as a tank of gas, lots of tanks of gas make a difference to a small business, but a single tank of gas to a station in Renfrew is probably unnoticeable. So we look at that economic benefit as well. Last year, 4 clubs coordinated and we launched the first official loop in the Ontario Federation of ATV Clubs that you can see on the map here highlighted in yellow. Where the 3 is on the right-hand side of it is roughly Smith Falls. So you can take the ART all the way up through to Renfrew, come down the KNP to Verona, and then connect across again on the bottom. We've had surveys done where the ATV tourism is significant. There's lots of people looking for single-day events or opportunities as well as multi-day. This is a little over 300 kilometers of loop. If somebody's adventurous, they can do that in a single day, but more often than not, they will do those in 2 or 3 days. And Ompa is a good spot as a base for that because they could run from half the loop in one day over to Smith Falls or Carleton Place, run the other half second day, and then they can explore the rest of the trails here. We know those economic benefits are a significant bit. That's part of our goals for 26 and continuing with the work that we've been doing in coordination with the municipalities. It's not just looking after ourselves, and our sport has continued to grow. And our people have shown that they like those events. They like to go stay for a couple of days. So we're looking to continue our ongoing trail maintenance. We're looking to continue our club rides to promote the areas. And we're also looking at some trail expansion through road networks, unmaintained roads. Predominantly it's in Lanark County, but it does have the benefit to North Frontenac as well, from that economic business aspect that I just mentioned. And we want to bring them out here. It's a big tourism market, and we want to help bring that to wherever we can, and on opposite as great of a spot as anywhere to do it. And I can say that having ridden the trails all over Eastern Ontario, Southwestern Ontario, the Kawartha areas. I've been in North Carolina and Tennessee. I've also been out in the dunes on the West Coast. We've got trails as good or better than anywhere in this area. So that's what I mentioned, this economic benefit. So we're looking at it from this expansion we want to do inside this yellow circle. At the edge of Almont, the edge of Blakeney, Pakenham, Clayton, Hopetown, and then obviously on the left, just on the left edge of that is Ava, and it's a really nice drive across. There's an existing network across in the middle. We're looking at putting that together, specifically from an economic development. And when, even though those are all in Lanark County, the Ava aspect of it as a base is a huge aspect of it for us. We look forward to continuing our agreement, that the existing agreement that we have, the same as we did last year, for another year, and welcome opportunities to partnership on events or specific projects. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
First of all, thank you, John, for coming and for doing the presentation. Council, no questions? Councilor Good?
Yeah, excuse me, I see here you, in 22, 23, and 24, you gave an extra $20,000 in the trails?
Yeah, yes, we did. And in the discussion that we had, I had with staff last year, it was discussed that part of that was essentially a buy-in from, we hadn't been contributing for a few years. And so we were a combination of essentially a top up, if you will. And then through, with some personal issues with members on our side, and combined with COVID, we didn't reevaluate it, but it had always been intended to be reevaluated right from the initial agreement. So it was reevaluated 3 years out, which is why we brought that to council last year and it was agreed. And part of it was the reason why we were asking for it to be reduced from that 20 to the 65, because of how much we put into the rest of the trails that are connectors off of the Parklands roads. And that's what I demonstrated. We invested the equivalent of another 80,000 was put into the trails. So the 13,000 reduction was offset by 80,000 of investment.
Councilor Fowler?
Your organization, Ottawa Valley ATV Clubs, is a sub-club of the Ontario Federation of ATV Clubs. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when you're out on the roads, you're using a OFATV pass, and also you're covered by their insurance, right?
Yes.
Now they have about 27,000 people.
No, they do not have. They don't have. They have about half of that.
Half of that
is my understanding. Somewhere in the 12, depending on where membership sits. The last information I had was somewhere in the 12,000.
I'm basing mine on what I seen written down one time. That's what I'm basing mine on. So we could, it's either there nor there. Also, you have about 1,000 members, you say, in your club?
Yes, we do.
And so we're making a deal, an agreement with you, and you only have 1,000 members, and I could see where your money that's available for our agreement might be strained. But then again, why are we making a deal with you when we should maybe be making a deal with the Ontario Federation of ATV Clubs?
Because we're the club in the area. That's the way the system works. We are the local representatives. They're a federation that supports all of us. They wouldn't enter into an agreement with you because they're not the ones that look after the trails. They're just a parent organization, if you will, that provides the opportunity for us as clubs for coordination on things such as insurance. So we can get insurance cheaper as one of 24 clubs as opposed to one of one.
Back to the,
Councilor Fowler, you've had a couple of questions. It's Councilor Inglis' turn. We'll get back to.
How does $6,500 compare with what we contribute to Greater Madawaska or Lanark Highlands?
We don't contribute anything specifically to them. The difference is North Frontenac, to the best of my knowledge, is the only municipality in the province that has an agreement where you're able to charge road access or road passes. So that's why it's a unique agreement.
Well, we're charging for Crown Land Road access for the campsites mainly. You're using the roads, but you're primarily using trails, I would imagine, not the roads. So you're telling me that we're piggybacking our road permit system onto your use to some extent. You don't pay $6,500 to those other rural municipalities.
No, but they also don't charge anybody to use their roads either.
But you do similar valuations and trail maintenance in those townships?
Not on roads. So we only do, again, aside from the odd special, the tree that just fell, the maintenance that we do is on Crown Land or a unmaintained road, road allowances, that type of stuff. But if it's a gravel road that we're using, Umferson Mill Road, for example, or Levant Mill Road, we don't pay to use those, nor do we do any maintenance on them other than what, like I said, those ones that come up right at the time.
Mr. Fowler, we can go back to you now.
try to get back to where I was. The $20,000 you paid that for 3 years, right? And then last year we came up with an agreement for 6,500. A lot of what you're telling us today is you're putting a price tag on volunteer work. As a volunteer, I wouldn't expect to have any monetary value to what I do because I'm volunteering my time, my efforts. I just find that when you have another organization, and we all know what it is, that pays consistently like $25,000 a year for the maintenance of our Crown Land roads, and other organizations are paying much less. Something's going to happen that maybe we won't be getting that money for our road system. And they've been doing this for a long time, and they've done a lot of other excellent volunteer work too. So I think $20,000 is reasonable for us to ask you to pay. And that's my opinion. I don't know what council will say, but I'm concerned about this. We have to be fair to all the groups, and we're not.
Anyone else? And Councilor Fowler, to your point, Frontenac ATV Club and the Eastern Trails Alliance each spend $15,000 plus volunteer labor. I don't know how much EOTA puts into the K&P trail. But it's 15,000 plus a whack of labor, which is probably comparable or maybe even greater than what you put in as it is to all the trails. So I agree. It's an industry I don't fully understand. And we've got EOTA, we got Frontenac ATV Club, we got the Ottawa Valley Club, we got Ridge Riders and all these other cool clubs around. I don't fully understand. We're trying to balance how this all works. And it's very difficult. So I personally, I think 6,500 right now. Councilor Good.
With all the other volunteer work that they do, there is a dollar number on volunteer work, any way you look at it. So I think $6,500, what the rest of they're doing for the trails now. So
We didn't do it, they'd have to spend the money to have it done.
that's correct.
Councilor Inglis.
The other comparison is the Motorcycle Association. with a smaller membership and probably less physical impact on the environment. 2 wheels rather than 4, much less weight. There was a 6,500 versus 3,000 number of members. I would say that the ATV group has quite a bit more than a 2-to-1 impact on the environment than the motorcycle group. For that reason alone, maybe 6,500 is a bit low.
Mr. Harmer, you have an opinion on this?
Well, it seems there's a lot of undecided information here. Like nobody really understands the extent of what each club does, it seems.
Well, so I go by what we do in Frontenac ATV Club from Canby Trail. And I see the numbers here, and there's a lot of work. And if you don't have the volunteers doing it, then you've got to hire a contractor, because it's all about economic development, tourism. So, and I will take exception to the 4 wheels versus 2 wheels. Sorry. Typically, well, I just won't go into my reason for that. But I know we started off with 20,000. Okay, fine. Everybody agreed to 6,500. This council did. We do it on a year-by-year basis. They have a greater membership, greater potential, but we're getting money from or input from other organizations as well. Go ahead, Councilor.
Well, I just like to say that without the contribution of the voluntary hours that are put into this, it probably wouldn't even exist if it was paid by cash.
But we had to buy this ourselves. We'd be hard pressed to keep that open. So, Councilor Fowler.
The other organization's been around a long time, and they've been contributing that high amount of money for use of the parkland roads. And it's going to, Corey, about 15, 20 years? Yeah, 15. So, I wouldn't want to see that disappear. And that's one of my concerns. And that's why I say that we have to be fair, or at least appear to be fair. And, we're talking about a lot of money, and I do appreciate your group doing a lot of volunteer work. But so does the other group in other ways. And it may not show up. If there's a problem with the trail, it gets fixed through that group, and they have people that do that. So I think it has to be fair all the way around.
Okay.
Just one other thing, Corey or Brooke. What happens with the OTA when they're what they do to the trails? Where does their money go and how is it applied? Maybe that's one thing that we don't know what's going on. That's clear to everybody here.
Go ahead. Brooke, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to answer your question, EOTA since 2002 has been donating generally $25,000 worth of gravel and maintenance specifically on roads. That's been our agreement with them. We have not made an agreement for 2026 as of yet. Ottawa Valley, our agreement with them, their money comes into our parklands and is used appropriately, which is generally road maintenance, because as everybody knows, the cost of it is very expensive, but it's just how they're donated is a little different. If that answers your question.
So, wherever this works out in a second, one of the things that I would like to see in the future is some kind of comparison, like a chart. How much, what do they do, and what do they cover? So if they're just covering back road trails, like the motorcycle club, that's one thing. If they're covering major trails, they're covering road work and so on. It's just that we have a little better idea of what is happening, because obviously some of us, including myself, don't have the full concept of what's fully involved.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, These agreements are for road use only. So what work they do on outside trails is what work they do. This is just for the parklands roads for them to use it. They're not permitted to do maintenance on it. Any kind of work, that's what we do in-house. So their agreements for all three groups are strictly just to ride the trails. Like John says, if they come across a tree, they're going to cut it off, but they're not permitted to do maintenance on our roads. So the maintenance John talks about is the connecting trails off of those roads. So as far as what the groups do for that, I mean, John obviously went through some stuff as well as Lisa, but it's outside of the township's control on what they do on the offshoot trails. This is specifically for the crown roads that we have the land use permit with the ministry, which they're not permitted to do maintenance on.
Corey, it's going on a little long.
And at the end of the day, so what this is all about is the guys are out, the staff are out, they stop a vehicle. Everybody's required to have a permit within the crown roads, within the North Frontenac Parklands. They either have the Ottawa Valley permit, the OTA permit, or the ByTown Motorcycle Association permit. Thanks, way you go. So it's all, it all kind of works together. So that our permit or one of those three permits, and they're good to go. If they don't have any, they're turned around and go get a permit. So if it's, or if it becomes a repeat thing, then we can lay a fine if we need to. But at the end of the day, that's what this is all about.
Okay, so I'm going to draw this to the discussion to a close. There are two motions here about making the same mistake again. So can we do the item B, please?
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the presentation from John Wilson, President and Trail Master with the Ottawa Valley ATV Club regarding the proposed 2026 agreement with the township, and thanks him for his time spent today.
In favor? That motion is carried. So item B1, 2026 annual agreement with the Ottawa Valley ATV Club.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Manager of Community Development's administrative report entitled Ottawa Valley ATV Club 2026 Annual Agreement, and that council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to sign the 2026 agreement with the OVA TVC to honor their trail permits on the Crown roads within the North Frontenac Parklands.
Councillor Fowler, would you like to speak?
Just a point, yes, a point of order. Regarding what you just described, Brooke, the acronym, could you read out what that means?
Which acronym?
So OVATVC, it stands for Ottawa Valley ATV Club.
It's in the resolution.
But it's not their permit, it's the Ontario Federation of ATV permit.
I'll let Brooke speak to that.
Brooke.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the resolution could be reworded to say 2026 agreement with the OVATV Club to honor the OFATV trail permit on the Crown Road. That would clarify Councilor Fowler's.
Okay, we've done this this is the fourth or fifth year, and it's been the same essential wording, so I'm a little frustrated, but let's change it to C.
So I got the Ottawa Valley. With the OVATV to honor the Ottawa. Right, Ottawa. Rideau. So it's the Ontario Federation of ATV. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, before you do that, Councilor Fowler, are you going to ask for them out and put in the resolution?
Yes, I would like that too.
And do you want a recorded vote this time, Mr. Fowler or Councilor Fowler?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information Manager of Community Development's administrative report entitled Ottawa Valley ATV Club 2026 Annual Agreement, and the council approves the annual fee of $6,500. And the council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to sign the 2026 agreement with the OVATVC to honor the Ontario Federation of ATV Clubs trail permits on the Crown Roads within the North Frontenac Parkland.
We just combined two resolutions there.
No, they're two separate.
I know. Okay,
And a recorded vote as well.
we're going to vote, please.
Counselor Fowler,
Against?
Counselor Good, Counselor Hermer,
Yes.
Counselor Inglis,
Yes.
Mayor Lichty.
Yes,
Vote is carried 4-1.
thank you, everyone. Thank you. That takes us to item 9, adoption of the minutes.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council adopts the minutes as circulated of a public meeting of council held January 16th, 2026, and a regular meeting of council held January 16th, 2026.
Comments? In favor? Carried. We have no business arising, so that's item 10. Item 11, our Communications A section, Clerk's Administrative Report.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information Section A items of the Clerk's Administrative Report entitled Communications of Interest.
Comments? In favor? Carried. That takes us down to Communications Section B. These are the action items. Ministry of Municipal Affairs, Township's Financial Information Return.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information an email dated January 7th, 2026 from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, providing the following financial indicators. The financial indicator threshold report, which was calculated using the North Frontenac 2024 financial information return data, and the municipal financial profile for North Frontenac.
Do we have a presentation on this, Corey? Jonathan?
Yeah, so I didn't do a full presentation, but I was just going to try and provide a little more context and explanation to the indicators represented. So there are sustainable indicators and the flexibility indicators. Again, these are kind of a high overview. Nothing can stand alone to be like a decision-making tool, but it does give us, some idea where things are. So if we first look at the total for taxes receivable, so it indicates how much property tax and user fee revenue, shows how much of the taxes billed are not collected. So if you're looking at our current indicators, there has been an increase. So it's put our risk to a moderate level. So generally we're running low. Everyone is seeing that in municipalities. I think it's due to the economic times. So with that information, I look at it, we did look at 2025 and the current taxes seem to be staying up to date. So it just seems to be the people that are behind or remaining behind. We do have a few tax sales this year, so that will, we didn't do any last year, so that will help with that. The other thing when looking at this and seeing the increase is we are going to look at options of setting up so people can do monthly payments. We've had some requests over the years with the monthly. I think it just helps people with budgeting these days and that, so that may help in, successful collection to reduce that receivable amount. So next indicator, the net financial asset or net debt as a percent of own revenues. So that indicates how much property tax and user fee revenue is servicing debt. We are on the lower side because we do not have, not carrying a lot of debt. So we are lower than surrounding areas. Our risk indicator is low. So as long as we're not incurring more debt, that number will remain low. So our total reserves and discretionary reserve funds as a percent of our municipal expenses. Again, our risk level is low. So this indicates how much money is set aside for future needs and contingencies. So we do, if you're looking at the median and average, we certainly fall right in those ranges, but it is a low risk. That's good news. Our cash ratio indicates how much cash and liquid investments could be available to cover current obligations. So again, our risk is low because we are on probably the higher side compared to the median and average. So again, still a good news. I think it's good that we have, the cash available to service our debt. I was on a call recently where there was a municipality that had reserves, but there was no cash to go with that reserve. So that would be a very troublesome time. It kind of was like, oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine. But so, municipalities are running into, they've kind of allocated it, but the cash is actually not there to use it should they need it. So our debt servicing cost as a percent of our total revenues, again, low. Generally, we do run low on all of our indicators, which is a good news. Closing amortization balance as a percent of the total cost of capital assets. So this one has been running high, and this year it is moderate. And I was talking to the ministry because when they put these out, then they give me a call and we just kind of talk about the numbers and looking at it. Again, this you can't look at as a standalone, but I do believe because of the continued investment, increasing investment in our capital assets, that's why we're actually seeing, or we've been running with a high risk, that we have now gone into the moderate area. So I think it does show council's commitment to our capital asset replacement program. But the ministry really said, you can't look at that standalone. We do have to look at, the condition of our assets. So the asset management plan and the bigger picture, but I do think that this number here is representative of the increased spend we've had for the last few years. And then the last one here is our annual surplus. Again, there is no risk. It is still running at a low. So these numbers, again, are high review. It really shows us, again, maybe looking at a different process for collecting receivables. And it's just the ministry uses this, just what municipalities they might need to keep an eye on that may be struggling. So that hasn't been our case over the years, but that's what they use it for, is really just a high level review.
So we're in good shape.
So yeah, we're in a good, stable shape. I mean, most of our risk is low, so that is good. And we're seeing some improvement with our capital assets. But the only one that's kind of a caution is our receivables increasing. So we'll look at some strategies to rectify that.
Thank you, Kelly. Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, call the question in favor of the resolution. Carried. Thank you very much. The next one is item B2. That's also a corridor map and virtual engagement. I'm the one that pulled this out of Communications A for various reasons. Go ahead, Brooke, please.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Farmer. Whereas council received for information an email dated January 20th, 2026 from Joel Weed, Senior Advisor, Community Relations with Alto, advising the online consultation platform is available for the public to provide additional feedback and explore the interactive corridor map for the high-speed rail network between Toronto and Quebec City, with a possible route coming through the township of North Frontenac. And whereas the Township of North Frontenac's official plans vision statement, North Frontenac Council is to preserve the unique and pristine natural environment to promote a strong, resilient rural community. Now therefore be it resolved that with limited information and consultation that has been provided to date, the Council of the Township of North Frontenac does not support the proposed corridor going through the Township of North Frontenac, and that Council formally supports that a better suitable corridor and proposed stop would be within the boundaries of the City of Kingston, which is the regional urban center, economic hub, as well as the transportation node for southeastern Ontario. And the Council directs staff to provide this motion to the Honorable Steve McKinnon, Federal Minister of Transportation, the Honorable Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, MP Scott Reid, the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, MPP John Jordan, and Mark Imblo, the President of Alto.
Comments, thoughts? Councillor Hermer.
I agree with that in principle.
Okay, Councillor Ingles.
Well, I disagree with it. I think the resolution as stated is misguided. Basically, I want to say that I am generally in favor of this project of high-speed rail. I think it's going to provide alternate transportation that will reduce air traffic and highway traffic. But saying that, to suggest that a high-speed link between Toronto and Ottawa should go through Kingston is misguided. It's not going to happen. And I do think it would be, and rather than us just saying we don't want it in North Frontenac, I'm convinced this is going to happen. By saying we don't want it in North Frontenac, you're saying, I want this in Central Frontenac or South Frontenac. That's NIMBYs. I think we'd be far better off to simply state a number of conditions that we would insist on if it comes to North Frontenac. Things like not cutting off roads, not going over lakes, giving the township a major contribution annually, a community benefit. I think we'd be far better off to write a resolution which is actually somewhat doable.
Councillor Hermer, then Councillor Fowler.
Well, I totally disagree with Councillor Inglis. I think when it comes to tax dollars that's going to be invested in this, it's imperative that the biggest number of the population has the advantage to use this service. If it's going to be a direct route from Montreal to Toronto, then there's going to be very few of the population actually that's going to use this. Like, we're going to pay an equal amount and get no service from it.
Well, that's a bigger picture issue though. Councillor Fowler.
Doesn't matter where this line goes, it's going to leave a permanent scar on the environment. And if it goes through North Frontenac, and we're the ones that are always bragging about our pristine natural area, I think it would be a sad state of affairs if it does go through North Frontenac. I wish it wasn't going to happen, but sometimes these things happen. We have no control over it, and that's the way I feel right now.
Okay. Councillor Good.
That wherever they decide they're gonna put it, that's where it's gonna go. We can do all the writing on paper we want. It's not gonna do any good. So to try to say that we want it through Central or South Frontenac, not in our backyard, I don't think it's gonna work. And to go through go through North Frontenac without going over top of some lakes, that's not gonna happen either. It's gotta go straight. It can't go around corners that easily.
Right. Councillor Fowler.
Just a quick thing, I read in the paper that South Frontenac did not want it to go through their area too, so it's not in their backyard.
Okay, so I have talked to the mayor of Central Frontenac, and both of us have concerns that we don't have enough information. We don't know what we're saying yes or no to. We're saying no to a general idea. I had this brought forward so we could have this discussion. We don't know if it's going to go along Highway 7, which would be central Frontenac, or it's going to go just south into central, whether it's going to go north of us right here or right through here. We don't know this. I've sat through their presentation 3 times, and every time the route has sort of changed. Or we've always said we don't know, but the implication is that it's changing. It's not going to go through a major city. There's just no way they're going to be able to do it. At the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, they were promoting a stop near Charlotte Lake because it's the middle of everything. Because there's people north of us as well, and they'd have to go 2 hours to Ottawa as opposed to an hour to Charlotte Lake or an hour and a half. So you look at the big picture, Peterborough's actually lucky that they're getting a station, and none of this is going to be in an urban area. So the way we looked at it is if you're in South Frontenac, you've got farmland, you've got agricultural issues, you've got a lot of lots, you've got people, you have that arched biosphere to deal with, more roads and everything else. You come north, you have increased construction costs, which are quite easily, we built the KNP 100+ years ago. But we have the environmental issues. So I don't know where it's going to run. And we're already pitting, thanks to South Frontenac, we are pitting one township against another. South Frontenac said it's better to go into Kingston. And the mayor of Kingston said, we'll take it. And if it doesn't come here, South Frontenac shouldn't have it. So, and there's 2 groups in South Frontenac, one for and one against. If you go into Facebook, you'll see this stuff. There's some people talking about one over near Tweed and Marlborough. I just don't know how we could handle this. If I would suggest, if we're considering saying we don't want it, we take that Kingston clause right out. Councillor Hermer.
Just a comment. It's a good thing our forefathers didn't debate things like this.
I'm sure they did though.
Well, I don't think so, or the CN would have never been built.
The White Pass Railroad in Alaska was built by a British engineer and somebody else who got drunk in a pub and decided to build it. So, you know, that's how the way it works. It only takes money. So what would you like to do, folks? Would you like to amend this, leave it, vote on it? What would you like to do? Okay, so at this point in time, sorry, Councillor Inglis?
Well, as I said, I would like to amend it. I agree. We take out the meaningless suggestion that it go through Kingston. It's not going to go through Kingston. And say that we'd prefer not to have it go through North Frontenac, but if it does, we want a series of concessions that we would agree to in future.
We already have promised municipalities get a community benefit, right? No, so is it just too early for this, Councillor Fowler?
I agree, it might be a little bit early, but in a way, I do support what John is saying, that we should just say that we don't want it here. And if it does come, then let's see if we can get as much money out of it as we can that will benefit the township.
Okay, so how do we do that? What's this resolution look like? We just take out the Kingston clause and start there and then bring it back again to say, you know, if it comes here, well, there would be negotiations that have to be, because they just can't cut off roads and whatever and so on.
See a lot of compensation for cutting off roads and other corridors. Yes,
it's all fine and dandy until you're the one that lives on the dead end road. It's all of a sudden you can't get through. So what would you like to do, council? Wayne?
Let's just take out the Kingston clause and deal with the rest of it when it comes in.
Okay, you make that amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. Seconded by Councillor Fowler. We have to vote on the amendment. Okay. How does this look? Okay. Okay, that's okay, that works, that's fine with me. Councillor Inglis.
Just say the other thing we could do is to defer it to the next meeting, and at the next meeting, come up with a list of concessions that we would insist on, whatever that may be. We could defer it and just think about a list of concessions.
I don't like the word concession, but I understand. How about benefits?
List of conditions and benefits.
Yeah.
I mean, it would at least put some things on the table to be discussed, things that we would think are really important.
So we could just, you're suggesting we just defer this item
Yeah.
to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Have a more fruitful discussion. We might know more at that point in time. 'Cause right now, we really don't know anything. Counselor Fowler.
Yeah, they're having open meetings in different areas,
Yeah,
so we might know a lot more then.
The meetings are set up to, as I understand it, to present the case, but they're really to solicit comments. And I don't know how they're ever going to sift through all the comments they're going to get. Because if Frontenac County we're a small county and we're just one, it's going to be quite difficult for them, but that's their problem. Councillor Hermer.
Well, I saw some, I don't know what municipality it was, but one of the officials there was saying that these presentations are just for information only. Like they're gonna be just displays of different aspects of this project, and that's it.
When you read the information telling you about the information sessions, they guide you to the interactive map, which is still these broad corridors. And they're liable to go outside the corridor. And this is what they've got it narrowed down to right now. Well, possibly, yes. We're in one of them, that's for sure. So what would you like to do? Right now we're prepared to vote on the motion without the Kingston clause in it. Do we want to add, or do you just want to defer this motion? I'll take either one. Councilor Fowler.
If we delete the Kingston thing, I'd be fine with that, because we can always bring this back under another resolution later on, rather than dragging it, kicking the can down the road.
Councilor Good, what do you think? Take the Kingston clause out and
Take the
that's
Kingston
it.
clause out, then we'll negotiate it later on.
Okay. Councilor Hermer, can you live with that? I know Councilor English is.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so that's for you. The resolution is as read, minus the clause that says, and that council formally supports that a better suitable corridor would be to the city of Kingston. So all in favor of the motion as amended? That motion is passed. And I do expect it to come back when we know more information. Okay, this takes us to item 12A. Declaration of council member office to be vacant as per the Municipal Act, Section 259.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Inglis. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Declaration of Council Member Office to be Vacant as per Municipal Act, Section 259. And that in accordance with Section 262 of the Municipal Act, council declares the office of councillor for Ward 1 to be vacant, and that per the township's procedural policy, council instructs the clerk to offer the position to Mike Haig as the candidate from Ward 1 who had the next highest number of votes in Ward 1 at the previous election in 2022. And that if Mr. Haig is agreeable to accepting the position, to invite him to the February 27th, 2026 council meeting to take the oath of office. And that if Mr. Haig declines the position, the clerk is instructed to advertise the vacancy as set out in the procedural policy.
Comments? In favor of the resolution? Carried. So on that, Corey, we will send an official letter to Mr. Hayes. And okay, give him a deadline to respond to. Okay, that takes us to item 12B, CAO complaint files, 2025 annual report.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the Chief Administrative Officer's administrative report entitled Confidential Complaint Files 2025 Annual Report.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Chief Building Official, Building Department, Annual Activity for 2025.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the Chief Building Official's administrative report entitled Building Department Annual Construction Activity 2025.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item D, Planning Department Year-End Report for 2025.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the Clerk Planning Manager's administrative report entitled Planning Department Year-End Report for 2025.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item E, Shore Road Allowance Closure and Bylaw, Kerr.
Moved by Counselor Inglis, seconded by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the Clerk Planning Manager's administrative report entitled Shore Road Allowance Closure and Sale Bylaw, Kerr, and that as required by bylaw 2025-04, all that part of the Shore Road Allowance abutting Kashwakmak Lake, adjoining lot 308, registered plan 1045, formerly in the Township of Barrie, being Part 1 on registered plan 13R 14741, Kashwakmak Lake, be declared as surplus and sold to the adjoining owners. An appraisal of the property is not necessary as this is a shore road allowance, and the council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to stop up, close, and sell this portion of the shore road allowance.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Corey.
Is it okay if Don reads the excused now?
Oh, by all means, thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, so item, which is 12F, update to civic addressing and private lane naming procedure bylaw.
Moved by Counselor Inglis, seconded by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Update to Civic Addressing and Private Lane Naming Procedure Bylaw, and the council approves revising the civic addressing and lane naming policy, and that council will consider an updated bylaw later in the meeting.
In favor? Sorry, comments? Counselor Inglis.
Is this going to cost us anything, the effort to digitize this at the county level?
No, there's no additional cost to the township with this revision, and it is to get the system consistent across the county for the new 911 system that's coming in.
Thanks for that.
In favor of the resolution? Carried. That's 12G, pothole prevention and repair program and transfer payment agreement.
Moved by Counselor Inglis, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Pothole Prevention and Repair Program and Transfer Payment Agreement Update, and the council authorizes the Chief Administrative Officer to sign the transfer payment agreement for the Ministry of Transportation's Pothole Prevention Repair Program on behalf of the township, and the council directs staff to collect, complete, and submit all required documentation and reports required by the program.
Comments? Counselor Inglis.
We got about 4 hours left to do this, Darwin?
We have dibs on Corey immediately after the meeting's over. Today is the due date for the agreement. It's been an unusual program, just in how it's rolled out and what it's applicable to and the timing. So that's why we're in the position we're in today.
So originally we had to just say we were interested, send in appropriate documents. And now what we're doing is we're actually submitting our costs.
Now, originally, the scope of the program came out and we inquired and we were told we weren't eligible, that we didn't meet the mandatory requirements. So we would have brought it to council at that point if we had known we were eligible. Then the day that it was closing, we got a notice that, or a call that we haven't received your documents. There was some discussion. They considered we could be eligible, so we submitted by the deadline and then got a notice there in January that we were successful. And then this transfer payment agreement just came out since then, with it being due today.
So if we sign this agreement and send it in, which, okay, we're depending what council says, it's $38,000.
We have to submit our documentation to support that work and those expenditures, and it's up to $38,000. And with what we've spent on cold mix and the surface treatment, it's a eligible expense as well. I can't imagine we can't.
Surface treatment, surface treatment is eligible?
It is, yeah, as a pothole prevention technique.
It's too bad they maxed it at 38,000. Any other comments, council? In favor? Carried. Okay. That takes us to the external committees, local boards, and so on. First one is the Housing Advisory Task Force.
Moved by Councillor Inglis, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the notes of the meeting of the Housing Advisory Task Force held January 14th, 2026.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Economic Development Task Force.
Moved by Councillor Inglis, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the notes of a meeting of the Economic Development Task Force held January 19th, 2026, and that council approves the EDTF 2026 work plan.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item 14, does anyone wish to give notice of motion? Seeing none. Item 15, we have a motion which written notice has been given by Councillor Hermer. Review of procedure policy, specifically electronic attendance at open and closed meetings.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Inglis. Whereas at the council meeting held January 16th, 2026, Councillor Hermer served a notice of motion to discuss the procedural policy, specifically Section 6.6, electronic participation in open and closed meetings at the February 6th, 2026 council meeting. Now therefore be it resolved, the council instructs the clerk to update Section 6.6 regarding electronic participation, and that the clerk shall provide a report to council at an upcoming meeting regarding these changes and possible housekeeping amendments for council's consideration.
Well, Vern, you want, Councillor Herman, you want to explain your thought process here?
Well, I think it's imperative that we review our procedural bylaws concerning councillors' participation and attendance at council meetings. Under the Municipal Act, we're obligated to attend closed meetings as well as open. And when someone makes an open statement and willingly declares that they will only be attending by open meetings and electronically, then they're not fulfilling their duties as a councillor. So somehow we have to rework this so that we can ensure that they're going to participate and represent their ward.
So the county of Frontenac, Fred, Councillor Fowler and I both sit on the governance committee. We're looking at this stuff right now. That's much more strict than it is here. They say it's right now, then it's on Engage Frontenac. They want to review it. It's 2 meetings a year electronically. And they have conditions in which you're allowed to participate. And you can qualify for, bad word, you're allowed extra meetings where you can join electronically at the ward. But, you know, it's not a system to be abused. And when we did do ours this past summer,
I started talking about this and then backed off. But that hasn't worked as well as we thought it would, so to have the staff look at this and say, what can we do reasonably? You know, and how can we enforce it? Like, what is reasonable? 3 meetings, 4 meetings? The county has a lot less meetings than we do. Councilor Hermer.
Well, look, I understand that the municipality has the right to enhance the municipal act. We can't pass legislation that will weaken that, but we can increase the penalties involved. And I mean, when you look at what it states, realistically, all one candidate would have to do, or one councillor would have to do, is attend 1 meeting every 3 months, which would translate to 4-year, 16 in a 4-year period. And most councillors attend that many meetings within the first 3 months. So it's absolutely ridiculous. It's a bare minimum. And I think, look, we've just experienced what happens. And I'd like to see some teeth put in there where there's a different time frame and a different penalty involved to ensure that they're going to attend.
Councilor Fowler.
Yeah, at our council government meeting with the county, it was discussed that if you're attending electronically, you cannot participate in closed session. That was discussed. We might revisit the results of that. But that's a type of resolution I would agree to. The idea of having a person attend a closed meeting virtually, there's always the possibility that somebody else might be able to intercept it and listen in on it, which wouldn't be good.
We're not the only municipality struggling with this. South Frontenac, they've had it long before we did. They don't have a public forum anymore. So the county, once again, is 2 meetings electronically based on certain conditions, like family issues, you know, you're on vacation or whatever, and then additional absences or electronic participation at the call of the warden, which would be in this case, the call of the mayor. But what this resolution, and you can correct me here, Vern, is that you're asking is that we're asking our staff to look at it and see what we can do, make recommendations of how we can improve preventing that 16 meetings attendance over 4 years.
Right.
Brooke?
Right, I just wanted to clarify something. So our procedural bylaw already does not permit any participation electronically in a closed session by council members. We did, and we say leave it open, but we did allow for the township solicitor or another professional to attend electronically. For situations like this morning where perhaps Spencer's in Kingston or the solicitor's in Kingston and we're having a 9 o'clock meeting next week, that might be a reason that they wouldn't be able to attend, but they had information that had to get the. So if that's something you'd like us to look at, where we're asking everybody to attend or virtually. Sorry.
This is the whole picture. So you want to come to this particular meeting, you can, if you can attend as a counselor electronically. What we're saying, there is a limit, because we don't have a limit. And we're also saying to look at, you know, how do you prevent, it's extreme, but to Councilor Hermer's point, somebody could come and do 4 meetings a year for 4 years, 16 meetings, and not contravene the Ontario Municipal Act.
So you wouldn't be able to go over and above and say, so the municipal act says 3 months. So as a council, you wouldn't be able to declare the seat vacant if it's less, but you could look at things like compensation. You could look, those are the types of things that you could look, or we could investigate for you and bring it back for discussion. So if you want us to kind of look at, you know, there's per diems, you could just sample. You could do a per diem for each council, and we don't want to make it too complicated either. Keep it as simple as we can for accounting purposes. But there are things we could look at with compensation or other things that we could bring back for you guys for further discussion. We do that.
Counselor Inglis, then Counselor Hermer.
I don't think this is a realistic problem. I've been on council for 16 years. We've never encountered this before. And I think it's very unusual. We have had cases where, Councilor Bedard moved out west.
So can we keep the,
Okay, I just don't think this is a realistic problem going forward. I think the rules as they exist are sufficient.
I will tell you, it's happened at other councils in this term. Counselor Hermer?
Well, getting back to the closed meetings and confidentiality, something I don't really understand here. We make exceptions for like today. Well, if somebody wants to sneak in and listen, these are the most important ones we have when we're getting legal advice. So what's the purpose of?
You want him traveling at $500 an hour from Kingston to here for an hour session and go back and cost us $2,500?
That's not the point I'm making. Like, it's confidentiality. Like, that's the reason we supposedly have closed meetings. Well, if there's a danger that somebody can hack into the system, then they could do it anytime.
Counselor Fowler?
Yeah, it's somebody that has to rely on a virtual meeting should have to pass the, sort of get the permission, say, of the mayor or the CAO or both to be able to participate electronically or virtually. And I do agree that a closed session should not be virtual.
We already have
Except
that.
for this, except for the circumstances of having somebody that's a professional that's given advice that cannot travel here.
And that's in our procedural bylaw now.
Yeah. But to come into a closed session virtually, I agree that they shouldn't be able to. And they have to, I think it's important that we're here physically. It's really important. And it adds to the ambience of the council.
Can we keep our comments to whether you participate electronically or not, or in attendance at open meetings? Because we already have, if you're going to, you cannot participate electronically in a closed meeting. And we do allow in the procedural bylaw exceptions for professionals like we had today. Okay, so that's fine. So we got that. The question is, is there a problem? And if there possibly is, do we listen to what Vern has said or is suggesting to say, theoretically, a councillor could show up once every 3 months, do 16 meetings, or maybe 17 or 18, and not contravene the Ontario Municipal Act. And then it'd be up to the local population, whoever the voters are, to say whether or not that individual returns. So do we limit the number of participations electronically in open meetings? And is there a monetary penalty we could add? I mean, we're not going to solve this problem today, but can we maybe set up or strike a committee that would look at this? Make recommendations to the staff do that? Okay. It's just, I didn't want to put the burden on staff any more than they already have, so.
Yeah, if you like, we'll have staff do that for you and bring you back some options to consider. That's not a problem.
Okay.
So the way we look at this document is very much in what they thought. But sometimes we write it, never anticipating something, and then something comes up and we realize this section doesn't work because we never had to use it before. So in practice, it's not practical. So a lot of the conversations of the last few months have we've been going through tonight and just flagging spots that we feel council should discuss and decide if they want to make changes. So opening this up is not a hardship or burden to us. I think it's important that as council, you have a document that works for you. But it's your document, it's your procedure.
Councillor Hermer, then Councillor Fowler.
Well, like Councillor Inglis said, we've never experienced this before. But that's not to say we won't again. It'd be nice to have something on the books to deal with it if it does happen again, instead of going through this ritual again.
Counselor Fowler?
I think a lot of weight has to be taken for exceptional circumstances because we all can go through a situation. So just keep that in mind when you're considering it. Yeah.
So by opening this up, we can open up the entire document. I'm gonna have to address this through the CAO. Are there other issues that you and the staff have picked up that maybe we should be tightening up? I mean, we just passed this thing like 6 months ago or 8 months ago.
Not since I don't think there's anything since we've agreed to the new one. So this is a good starting point. And again, if ones come up throughout the future, it's as simple as you guys doing just like Councillor Hermer did, bring a motion forward, instruct us to look into it, bring you back options. And so I don't see any other concerns right now other than this seems to be one right now. So we're happy to look at it for you and bring you back recommendations.
So does that change the resolution? If we,
It does. I'm just gonna read some word into make sure that council's
okay,
that I've captured what you're looking for. Whereas at the council meeting on January 16th, 2026, Councillor Firmer served a notice of motion to discuss the procedural policy, specifically section 6.6, electronic participation in open and closed meetings at the February 6th, 2026 council meeting. Now therefore be it resolved, the council instructs the clerk to update section 6.6 regarding electronic participation to limit the number of meetings a council member can attend electronically outside of extenuating circumstances, and that the clerk shall provide a report to council at an upcoming meeting regarding these changes and possible housekeeping amendments for council's consideration.
Sounds good.
that, how do we solve problem of the 16 meetings? So there's like every 3 weeks, the other.
So
we should include just councillor attendance.
Yeah,
So
so
open and closed meetings.
we say something like, if you miss 2 months, then there's a financial penalty for it.
But the resolution should be a little more broader to include attendance like normal attendance at regular meetings. Okay. You put something in to limit that one getting. Where this whole thing started. It's not so much electronic, just like non-attendance.
They said this under the municipal act, that's a bare minimum, eh? And I think that should be enhanced because if you attend once every 3 months, you might as well not even be here.
So I'm just going to read this section. Now therefore be resolved, the council instructs the clerk to update section 6.6 regarding electronic participation to limit the number of meetings a council member can attend electronically outside of extenuating circumstances, and to include provisions regarding council attendance at meetings, both in person and electronic. And that the clerk shall provide a report.
Okay,
Sounds good.
all right, in favor of the resolution? Carried. Okay, that takes us to Councillor verbal reports, item 16. I can't open this up. That's what I was trying to do here, so. Can you pull it up just so I get the list right? I know it starts with the mayor, and it hasn't been a particularly active month. We had a council meeting at the county, 23 minutes. And thank you, got it. And Councillor Smith and myself both attended virtually.
And then Councillor Fowler and I sat through a governance meeting, participated in it, which we were reviewing and suggesting changes to the procedural bylaw for the county. One of the recommendations in it is to take this switching of chairs between the warden and the deputy warden out. Usually the warden starts the meeting, and then when it gets into the meat and potatoes, it's a little more relaxed, so they have the deputy warden change chairs. And then at the end, they bring the warden back. And we said, well, the warden should do the whole thing. So we'll see what the township says, or the county says. No North Frontenac Lake Association information, nothing on Municipal Services Corporation. So Councillor Good?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Or we'll just go around the table, that's okay. Councillor Fowler?
Okay, Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance will have our next meeting on February 19th. I'm sure there's going to be some discussion what went on here today. As far as county business, you looked after that. Seniors and law enforcement together. We do have a presentation in Arden on February 24th. It's going to be on frauds and scams. And then there's another meeting on March 19th. And that meeting conflicts with my Ontario Provincial Police meeting on that day. So I'll be attending that instead of this other presentation. May 8th at Snow Road Station. There's the presentation, and it's going to be about holistic medicine. Also, just go back to the OPP. My next meeting is March 19th. And after that, I hope to have some to get to the people that are at my portfolio and on that following days.
Thank you. It's a good thing we have great staff, because I'm now back in my system again. So very simple fix. Councillor Hermer?
Nothing to report.
And then Councillor Inglis?
Nothing to report.
One of the things that we're going to have to consider with the vacancy is the backfilling of the position of our representation to the Lakelands Family Helping Board directors. Okay, so think about that, and we'll talk about that at the next meeting. Councillor Good?
Is somebody going to be in touch with them to tell them that,
Okay. Yeah, we haven't been in touch with them off and on. So, okay, but yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so that brings us to introduction and reading of bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Farmer, seconded by Councillor Inglis. Be it resolved that leave be given the mover to introduce the following bylaws that have been circulated to all members of council. Number 2026-08, to close, stop up, and sell a portion of a shore road allowance. Number 2026-09, to enter into an agreement with the Ottawa Valley ATV Club. Number 2026-10, to adopt a civic addressing and road naming policy. Number 2026-11, to enter into an agreement with ByTown Motorcycle Association, and that these bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Comments? In favor? Carry. That takes us to item 18, which is the public forum. Kelly, can we start with online, please?
If there's anybody that's online and wishes to speak, please use the raise hand feature. Okay, so we have Kelly Willis.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to mention the Alto situation. Thank you for putting the links up so that you could actually kind of attend online. I managed to go to the January 31st meeting, and as Councillor Good had mentioned, Alto is looking specifically at straight lines. So if we kind of just give a general consideration to providing a straight line from Peterborough You could go straight down from Peterborough to Highway 7 and then straight across Highway 7. That would complement that direct line. If we don't provide any input, then our voices won't be heard. So I think that it's very important for council to recommend that members of the public actually participate. They have a JOT form, as you mentioned from your meeting yourself, that you could fill out questionnaires for during the meetings and get those answered. One of the questions that came was, why is Kingston not being included as a stop point? That decision came from the federal government. They decided exactly where the Alto train corridor was going to make its stops. If it does actually come along Highway 7 and it does stop at Sherbet Lake and it passes by Sherbet Lake, there is a good chance that later on in the future that Sherbet Lake could be one of those stops. But I think that what's important is to realize that we're going to have to support this network that's being kind of pushed upon us. But let's support it in a good way, in the sense that it complements what it is that we offer here in North Frontenac, which is sports, recreation, and leisure, and enjoyment of the natural habitats that exist here within the municipality. Something that we should also maybe consider is that there might be a necessity for emergency stop points with this train, given that the speed is actually at 300 kilometers an hour. What will that look like? Also, the fact that they're going to need to have people working in the area to support it. So economic growth will actually come from supporting the development of that network. So I just kind of wanted to bring those forward with regards to the Alto initiative that's occurring. Also today, looking at the agenda, I noticed that the Ottawa Valley ATV Club's presentation that they did was very good. I really enjoyed the pictures and snapshots and what it is that they're demonstrating that they're doing for the trail systems within North Frontenac and the support that they're providing for the area. So if that presentation could actually be included, I think that would be a good piece of documentation for us to reference when looking at what's actually happening with regards to these additional entities that are providing economic well-being for the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online, Kelly?
If there's anybody else that wishes to speak, please use the raise hand feature. Being none.
Is there anyone in the council chamber wish to make a comment about today's agenda? Mr. Morton? Oh, you got it here. You have your own. Sorry.
My questions and comments are similar to Kelly's. On the Alto train, NFNM did do an article release on this to contribute to the information in the public. We didn't feel like we needed to cover all of the brochure points, I called them, just because we are so far up north and kind of away from this issue. So it's kind of out of our lane, but it kind of is. So I didn't feel like I needed to dive into it that much and debate the points. The one comment I did have is I think that we should have our own voice here in North Frontenac. We shouldn't be relying on South Frontenac's motions to agree with them or build off theirs. We should stand up for ourselves up here and say what we think about our area. I think that would develop some pride in the community. And that's all I have on Alto. I had a concern with the ATV club and the motorcycle club's presentations. They were relying on or leaning on the fact that they do quote maintenance on these tracks. We don't know what that maintenance looks like, from their pictures. It looks like they've cut some trees and cleared some twigs and stuff from the paths. It's not maintenance in the bush. That's just making the trails easier to ride for them. Maintenance in the bush would require removing these branches, logs, whatever from the bush as stewards and acting as stewards to the environment. This would mitigate fire risk and wildfires and stuff. So if we're giving them a break based on the fact that they're maintaining, well, I think we should really be on top of and educate them of what maintaining actually is. Because I feel like that if we have to spend an absorbent amount on dealing with a wildfire from brush that was irresponsibly not stewarded in the forest, then it kind of defeats the point. Another thing on that is I still am very concerned about the calcium chloride that is used on the trails within the forest system. It's been proven to affect animals in the environment in a negative way. I think we should look into different options for that are more safe to insects and animals.
Hang on to that. Brooke, we use calcium chloride on the roads? Didn't think so. No, the KNP uses it within 100 or 200 feet of the major intersections to cut down dust and improve safety, but that's it.
Yeah, I was more talking about on the actual trails through the forest.
Yeah, I don't know if they'd use that.
There's pictures of it. They were proud of it on saying that we're doing this. They have their truck with the sprayer and everything. It's on the ATV Club's Facebook page. And I did investigate it mid last year as well. They're posting being proud of the fact they're controlling the dust in that way is what prompted me to look into what they're actually doing. Other townships have used a lot of different other mitigations for dust. Dust is a huge concern. I'm not saying it's not for people who live close to the trail. They've said they'll accumulate like almost a 1/4 inch of dust just from ATVs going by. I didn't really have anything else. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Either of you gentlemen like to make a comment? No? Okay. Oh, sorry. Mr. Lefros? Sure, come up to the mic, please.
So the only two things that when I see the agenda that I was looking at was the pothole grant and the septic reinspection program. So currently it's a volunteer program, modest inspection fees and some education in that. But as the presentation today did outline, the amount of volunteers has significantly jumped. Active participation comes from various things. There was more outreach, there was more education, there was more pamphlets, there was, more of everything. So with that, we're gaining some education on our own systems. We're gaining some education on the environment and the impacts that septics have and what have you. To continue with the program would be great. But to move forward and in order to start making maybe the impact that we all want. I mean, I have my reservations about certain things to do with the septic inspection program, but it has some good principle to it. So if we were to phase in and this already is incorporated a little bit in a point of sale. When you sell your house, sometimes there's clauses in there where you have to have your septic pumped or inspected or whatever, but maybe make it so it's mandatory in this.
We have that.
We have-
It's on its way.
Okay, all right. And then also have that in like a township database where MLS can access that. So people coming to the area looking to buy a home, they can go, okay, well, this area, they've done some and everything looks great, so, it's some kind of a database that holds that information. And And then the other thing is maybe, like the fees right now are moderate, so maybe moderately increase the fees to facilitate more education, more pamphlets, more outreach, more, budget for more lake associations to be, or even more lakes that maybe don't have an association to get the information, and then in turn, we have more volunteers and it creates a better thing.
Those are all good ideas. We sent out 564 notices, and we've done that in the past. Usually we get 3, 4, maybe 5%. We get 9.8 this time. It's still not very much.
Yeah.
But for a survey, it's not bad. So we're looking for that to increase. And you heard me earlier say, well, make sure we add extra money into that budget line. Because my comment has always been, what happens if we overspend and we have a deficit? And obviously we did. So it's a good problem to have. But I can be in front of a room of 60 people and say, who thinks this is a great program? And they're all 60 put their hand up. Okay, sign here and we'll go inspect it. All of a sudden they won't. Because those people, if the system has failed, they may not want to know because it's a $20,000 hit. So but it's better than nothing. And with the adding the transfer, or the verification at time of sale, which staff are working on right now because council has approved it in principle, right? So it's just a matter of time before that comes up. So these are all good points, but we're going to start somewhere.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and so outside of that then was the pothole grant. Like, I think yes, it's more added work for all of the staff because they gotta, where it goes, how they're spending it, where they're spending it. And there's rules, but I would say, applying for it and getting it would be beneficial because, I mean, our roads are in need of everything. So maybe this is the little bit of a violent shove that we need to take this and again, form I'm sure Darwin's already done a lot of road inspections and going, okay, these ones are bad. And then, but also put that into some kind of a system where these ones are being used X amount of times by these vehicles and heavy equipment and trucks, and we're having to fix them. And then to other points that are being made lately, upgrading it from tar and chip to asphalt in certain areas. And because we're going to grow regardless moving forward as time goes on. So, there's right now a quick Google search. There's like 6 different grants that are open with provisions and catches and conditions and all that, but they're open to municipalities for improvements to roadways, gravels, asphalts and all that. But I think this is a good thing to start with and apply for, and then we can add it to what we're doing already.
So the township of North Frontenac has an asset management plan. It's those every municipality, or supposedly every municipality in the province of Ontario, and it's Darwin's responsibility, excuse me, to monitor what we're doing in relation to that plan. So when a plan is done for the first 2 or 3 years, it's usually bang on. But as time goes on, not everything deteriorates in a straight line. So he has to constantly monitor that, and there will come a time in the next 3 or 4 years we'll probably have to go back and reassess. It includes all our roads, our bridges, our buildings, everything. So we've got that, and that's why we added the 2% 2 years ago to the tax base or the tax rate, and then 1% this year to make sure we have enough money. And we probably, I keep running these figures in my head, and I'm not sure we have to be there yet, but we might have to add a little more. We'll see when budget time comes around. And I assure you, if there's a grant out there, we've applied for it. We have $1 million plus in Plevna, so we'll see what that brings. Thank you for your time. Anyone else? One more, Donald? Sure.
Just really quick, sorry. I just wanted to suggest, when you guys were talking about the closed meetings attending virtually, it just sounded like an issue around an improved secure environment. So if an exceptional circumstance, if somebody or a professional has to do it over a closed meeting over Zoom, just make sure they're in an an approved secure space. A library, closed room, or an office in a township building, something like that.
That. Okay, and just once again, we're not the only township struggling with this, the only municipal government. It's a major issue, especially the closer to the urban municipalities you get. Okay, on to confirmatory bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Inglis. Be resolved that bylaw 2026-12, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council for its regular meeting held February 6, 2026, be read a first, second, and third time and finally pass.
Final comments? In favor? Carried. Adjournment?
Moved by Councillor Inglis, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved the council adjourns the meeting at 12:14 PM until February 27th, 2026, or at the call of the chair.
In favor? Adjourned. Thank you, one and all.